I see y'all boys, man. Even when you always vibe, it still can be difficult putting differences aside. It's easy to be blinded by your ignorance and pride, but if you know experience, give listening a try. It's simple, let's bridge the gap between this or that. It's not white or black when you only know half, but if we put it all together, we'll make it a whole. Then regardless of our feelings, the truth will get told. If your views don't match up with mine, the very same situation could feel different when I see it through your eyes. So whether it's your side or my side.
What's good, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Truth Podcast, where we tell our versions of the truth, because that's all we know. First of all, before anything, y'all give that video, or give this video, a like for that intro. Y'all saw me out here dancing, doing my little thing with the green screen, the little randos, the little fettuccinis rolling around. Give this video a like for that. I worked really hard on that. That's the new intro going on. I used the green screen a little bit. Y'all, I'll be honest, I was so ghetto. I went to Walmart and bought some green fabric because my green screen wasn't big enough. If you give this video a like, hopefully, or maybe I'll post the raw footage of that because it looks kind of crazy, but it came out really good. I'm really happy about that. But today, I know y'all are like, who's the special guest? What's going on? Y'all, I just decided that I'm going to be the special guest today. One of our subscribers requested something personal, not anything crazy personal, but she said, you should talk about your experience at my first internship. I'm not going to say no names. Obviously, the channel's not big enough, so majority of the people will know like this church and what I did in my internship there, so I don't really know why I can't say no names. I don't know. Whatever, I'm trying to be as professional as possible. I wanted to just reward my subscribers. That's something that I'm trying to get big on. If you comment something, I will do it, as long as it's appropriate and nothing crazy. But if you comment something, I'll make sure it gets done. So Alan been commenting, he loved Chronicles of the Sword. Ain't nobody else saying nothing. So Alan, we doing Chronicles of the Sword till the end. But now, yo, I'm trying to reward my subscribers. So if you want us to talk about something on Truth Podcast, if you want a topic to be touched, if you want a guest to be on, say it and I will do my absolute best to get it done. So really, I wanted to do this video solo just because I wanted to speak my truth on what happened. And I keep acting like it was a terrible experience. Yeah, that was the best experience of my life. That is probably... I don't feel good saying this, but like that is one of my favorite places ever to work at. I had a great relationship with I was going to say community, but really the church and the kids and the families. Like, I just wanted to be able to share my truth and share my experience and give you guys the authentic version of myself, or be as authentic as I possibly can be. And when I talk about this, we're going to talk about everything. I'm going to talk about the positives and the negatives, because I need y'all to understand that that's life. That's working in a church. We want to be all holy and sanctified and nothing goes wrong in church. No, there's certain things that go wrong and people experience church hurt. And I experienced a little bit of church hurt, but it wasn't like nothing crazy. But I do want to talk about it because it was rough. And I kind of went through it, just a little bit. I mean, it's all things that we all go through. Before I say this, I need y'all to know that I love this church. I love the people. I'm not saying names and I'm not calling people out. I'm just speaking my truth because that's all I know. And I don't want y'all to be in there in my comments, sliding my DMs like, that's wrong. That shouldn't have happened to you. Everything that happens is for a reason. Everything that happens is for a purpose, and God is in control of all of that. And by the end of when I go through like the negatives, y'all will be able to see the purpose through all of that. But I do want to start off with the negatives because it was real. When I experienced, or when I signed up for to be the intern, little background, I'm not a Bible major. Like when I went to OVU, rest in peace, I'm not a Bible major. So I don't really fit the mold of just a minister or a Bible scholar. Like, I just don't. Y'all, I'll be honest. I think the Bible be boring sometimes. I'll be falling asleep.
You need to leave.
And it's one of those things that I try to use that to my advantage. I try to reach as many people as possible, as Paul talks about, I think in Corinthians, of being all things to all people. I think it's Corinthians. I should know. I preached on it. Bruh. But I only experienced two negatives working at this church. The first negative was I felt like the leadership didn't know what to do with me. So what I mean by that, first of all, let me give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't fit the mold of a typical intern or Bible major or things like that. Like, y'all know me, I'm real. I'm outspoken. I'm gonna say what I feel, and I'm gonna feel what I say. I don't even know if that makes sense, but it's me. Like, I say it. Sometimes it's not that I don't have a filter. I'm just very blunt and honest. And I don't think it's so much of just me. I just think, coming from New York, like, that's just how we are. We just call people out. We say what we see, and it is what it is. And you got to remember, I'm an intern. I'm 22 or 23 at this time, in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, with a congregation. Let's be honest, y'all. I was black too. So a lot of times, and this isn't just this specific church. A lot of churches over there didn't know what to do with me. A lot of leaders don't really know what to do with me, because it's just, I'm a lot to handle, and I accept that. That's one of the reasons why I love the church that I work at now so much. It's because I can honestly be myself, and I can be my blunt, truthful self, and I don't have to suppress some of that. I know when I worked at these other churches, y'all wasn't ready for all this. Y'all couldn't handle all the fettuccine. Like, I'm gonna be honest, and that's okay. Like, I think as a person, if especially as a minister, you want to be able to be all things to all people. So if that might be too much for somebody, you might have to hold it off and hold it back, because you want the message to be portrayed and you want the relationships to be built. You don't want to turn anybody away from Christ or Christianity. And so I'll say that for sure. Like, I don't think they really knew what to do with me. And also, that's a lot. I'm from New York. I'm different.
Different, bro. Different. He's different.
My Christianity also looks a lot different than the churches over there. Like, I'm just a little bit more real. And that's one of those things where you just don't know what to do. It's hard to handle somebody like that, especially in a conservative area where you got no black people. Is all I used to say, I'm a speck of pepper in a sea full of salt. Like, right. That's just what it was. I loved it. I embraced it. It was challenging at times, but yeah, I could be a lot for some people who never really experienced culture in that way. So, and I'm not saying nobody racist or nothing like that. I'm just saying it's a lot, yo. And a lot of people was culture shocked and really didn't know what to do with me. On top of, in a way, I kind of forced myself in. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt too, because they weren't hiring a youth intern at that time. But your boy was a Bible major, and I needed to take a practicum or field experience. And I couldn't do that while I was in Express. You guys, if you haven't known anything about Express, watch the OVU video. We're going to do another Express video with Jordan and Greg. That will be really fun, and we'll get that going to you guys soon. But because of Express, my summers were booked. Usually you do an internship over the summer. So my summers were booked, so I had to do one during the school year. And I kind of was like, hey, to this church, can I be the youth intern? And right off the bat, they told me, like, yeah, you can. My mentor told me that. And he was very upfront and honest with me. And he said, look, we can't pay you. Now, this church, I don't know. I don't remember the budget sheets, but they have some money. Listen, if you don't know nothing about churches, most churches, not all churches be having some money, y'all.
Tell them to bring me my money.
And so they had 2 interns already. They had 2 college interns, and they were getting paid. And so that kind of ties into my second point of the negatives was I didn't get paid my first semester there. And that was just rough because of just things people said, as well as my situation, what I was dealing with. So it was hard. And I'll go a little bit more into that. But when I talk about they didn't know what to do with me, let's first talk about that. I felt like the leadership didn't really know what to do with me, because I just kind of was just, I didn't receive any guidance. I had no guidance, girl. No, that's not the way. The song is called No Guidance, but I didn't receive any guidance. So I said, hey, can I be the youth intern? And they were just like, yeah. And then they were just like, Sunday morning, you're good to go. You teach the kids. I just was put on the spot. Now, thankfully, if you know anything about Dr. Jamal Colson, that's how he raises all of us. He just throws us into stuff. So that wasn't new to me. But in that moment, when I was looking for an internship for a practicum, I did want to receive guidance. I did want somebody to kind of walk me through this because, like, again, I'm not a Bible major. I'm just a Christian that loved kids and wanted to have a good time, and I needed an A. Like, that's really how this ministry all started. So I wish I received a little bit more guidance. And another thing was that, like, I just felt like, not that they didn't care about me, because they definitely did. I'm not trying to disrespect nobody, but I just felt like they didn't know what to do with me. So I was just kind of there. Now, I know there's some people that have experienced ministry and been in those situations, and they're kind of like, yo, that's exactly how it started for me. So it's not that big of a deal. I think the hardest thing was I was lumped together with the other interns, and they got all the guidance and they got all the people working with them, and they were in a way cared about more than I was. Not in a sense of the church, but by the leadership. The leadership definitely had better relationships with them, and like they would mentor them a little bit and have meetings with them. And I kind of just had to tag along to those meetings, and it just felt like all the meetings were directed towards their ministry, and their ministry was college ministry. So everything kind of had to do with like getting more kid or college students to come to Bible class, and getting more college kids involved. And I kind of just sat in the meetings like, I'm not part of this ministry. I'm working with the youth. So I definitely didn't get that experience that I wanted. And it was definitely like I said, like they definitely cared more about those college ministers or college interns. And I kind of just tagged along. And it sucked. It sucked in those moments. It sucked in the eldership meetings because I kind of was just sitting there like wasting my time. And I guess this is an insecurity of myself. Or an insecurity that I have. I always am looking for like that wise old sage to like take me under their wing and kind of lead me and show me the ropes and teach me. And that's something that I've been looking for, honestly, my whole life. I have that person. That person is my dad. I've just been looking for somebody besides my dad to mentor me, and that never really like happens. I always look for those people. I want to be like Daniel's son with Karate Kid. Shout out to season 4. That joint looked fire. Can't wait to watch that. But Cobra Kai, that's what I'm talking about. But I've been looking for that, and I never seem to find it. And I guess now that I'm reflecting, I was looking for that in those leaders, and they kind of were just like, that's nice, kid, and kept rolling on. And I really, that was something that holds true to me to this day, is I'm always trying to seek wise counsel. Like, that's a scripture that I'm always trying to see. Like, yo, these old dudes, like, what you got to say? Like, give me some of that wisdom. Like, you guys got it.
It's too bad they're old.
What do you mean, Patrick? Old people are the greatest. They're full of wisdom and experience.
I'm a big reader of Proverbs, so wisdom is really crucial for me. And I just never received that guidance. And that kind of just was like, that's like a negative that I just wish I could have tapped into them a little bit more. Another negative, and we'll switch on to the part that I didn't get paid. It wasn't so much that I did it for the pay. Obviously I didn't. And if you ask those kids, if you talk to those families, most of them didn't even know I didn't get paid. They just thought I was like the other interns, and they were just like, he doing his thing. No, for that first semester, I did not get paid. And it was just hard because of comparison. When you compare yourself to other people, like that really affects your mind, and it gets in your head, and it's annoying, and Satan really can have his way. And it was just hard because at that time I didn't have a car. This church was maybe about like 15 minutes away, so I didn't have a car. I was working part-time at Finish Line at the shoe store, and then I was a double major. So I was a Bible major, but I also I'm a Bible major, but I also have a degree in teaching. So I was a double major, so I'm doing double the workload. I had to do 40 observation hours in that one semester. So literally, I was working my tail off. I was grinding, I don't know how I actually got it done, but I would literally like just I would go to school, go to work, and then somehow like get a ride to go to church or go to church, go for Bible class. And then like I really wanted to be a part of these kids' lives. So like I would get rides just to go to their game. I remember this was one of the funniest moments. I remember one time I worked a typical 5 to 9 at Finish Line, and then we had a lock-in. And like, yo, I hate lock-ins. Like, they are from the devil. I don't know who in Christianity said lock-ins were good. They just are never good. You can put a thumbs down if you love lock-ins. I think there's something wrong with you. Go to bed. Like, I hate lock-ins.
If you think I'm here to play around with y'all, I don't know.
All right, Mr. O'Neill.
I don't like them, and they're not really that fun to me. But you got to get the kids what they want. We did a lock-in, and we actually did a lock-out where it was outside of the church. We were in Ohio, them people, they love to go to the outdoors. So we were outside of the church, and we like slept in tents and everything. Was it lock-in fun? Yo, it was so much fun. But I worked at 5 to 9. Then I literally took Alana's car, went to the church, went to the lock-in, stayed up all night, then worked 9 to 5 the next day at Finish Line, and then went to bed, then went to church the following day because it was a Friday, went to work on Saturday, then went to church on Sunday. And like, it was just like, I was just grinding all the time. Don't forget, I also was in Express, so I would have an Express practice. I'd be traveling some weekends, and it was just a lot. It was a lot, and it was rough because of comparison. Now, when I no disrespect to these brothers too, I love them. I talk to one of them on a regular basis. You know who you are. I got nothing but love for you, bro, and I'm happy for you. It was just hard during those moments because they both had cars. They both were getting paid. It was whack, I'll be honest, because they had like, I think a total of like 11 people, including themselves. So really like 9, if my math is correct. They had like 9 college students part of their ministry, and they got to split that between 2 people and got paid $100 a week. Like, yo, they was chilling. And then like they would go to class. I would like peek in their class a little bit, and their class would be watching like the Numa videos or like YouTube videos, and they're just talking about it. And I was like, what? Like, yo, remember, it was thrown on me. So like it would be me, and at the time we were only at 18 kids when I first started. So it would be, they just threw me 18 kids and was like, you got it, go. And I was just like, what? And like, yo, I did my thing during that time. The teacher and me, I actually created a curriculum with the kids. Basically what I did was I interviewed every single student individually, asked them, what topics do you guys want to talk about? And then I created, each month was based off like the majority vote of their topics. And we covered different aspects of that topic. And then I'll save the reel for another thing. But then I did something special at the end of every month. And like, I did that for the whole year. So by the end of, I want to say like, I started in August. So by the end of like October, I had a whole curriculum for the whole year planned out. Created that from scratch, made it with the kids. And like, praise God for like my teaching degree, because I was able to like use that and develop things for them. And y'all, it was a success. But when you're doing all that, grinding your behind it off, going and singing for the Express, going to work, working Finish Line, then doing observation hours, like, you're just like, dang, yo, you always fall into comparison. And there's a scripture in Galatians that talks about like, we do things for the Lord. I'll record over this and read it to you guys. But like Galatians 1:10, this is the scripture that I wanted to read to you guys. Obviously, I'm not trying to win the approval of people, but of God. If pleasing people were my goal, I would not be Christ's servant. Real simple, real short, but I had to replay that over and over in my head because it's not about people. It's not about the money. I'm serving God and doing what he called me to do. That scripture in Galatians just really, I had to hold true to that in those moments. Cause yo, it's rough. And like, again, like, it was just rough. Like when you just looked at it, you just look over at everybody and they making money and you grinding your behind off working. And yo, I counted because I forgot my brother's name, but he come and count every Sunday. Hopefully he's still there counting. We went from 18 kids from when I went there. I was only there for a year. From 18 kids, we ended the year at 27 kids consistently. So it grew, it got bigger. It was a success. We was killing it. And I was grinding my tail off, but it was a negative. But it's important that y'all know that God gets the victory through all that. Like, we do everything for the Lord. We don't do it for money. We don't do it for recognition. We do it for the Lord. And I was blessed beyond measure. That's like my go-to. When basically what ended up happening was I was grinding. And another thing too that kind of hurt too, and this part was this isn't the leader's fault. Some of the parents were like, hey, you just got it. Like, most of them didn't know, but some of them knew. And somebody was like, man, you just got to prove yourself. And like, that's when you just can't listen to what other people say. Because when you grinding your tail off, you working hard, and then somebody says you got to prove yourself. It's like really annoying because nobody else kind of had to prove themselves. And then for me, especially, what ended up happening was they hired another intern after me. And I kind of go about how that was. Well, I'll just talk about it now. Basically, I just was told that we're getting a youth intern. And it wasn't like the lines of communication kind of were like muggy. And they just were like, hey, this person's going to be the youth intern this upcoming year. And like, nobody really talked about me renewing my contract, or I didn't know what was going on. They kind of were just like, hey, it's this guy. And like, of course, he got paid right off the start, and he got opportunities that I honestly didn't get. And it was like annoying because it was like, when that person said, oh, you just got to prove yourself, like, this person didn't have to prove themselves for nothing. And they just got a red carpet just right on there. And yet I had to grind my tail off to prove myself. And again, the leaders didn't say that. So I don't want you to think, oh, the leaders. No, a couple of the parents said that. And that just, it's so important to guard your mind and guard your ears. You can't listen to other people, even people that are trying to say things to make you feel better. You really got to guard yourself. Because I could have gotten really bitter in that moment. And I could have been like, yo, I have proved myself. Y'all see the results. Like, you know who it is. Nah, I had to stay firm. I had to stay strong. I had to stay humble and just say, nah, like, okay, that's fine. I'm not doing it for the money. I really was doing it for the grade. No, I was doing it for the kids. And we'll talk about that more later on. But yeah, like, and the next intern, like, that was just a big mess. And God kind of like you don't have to say anything. Like, God always got you. If you do what's right, you stand firm in his word, and you work hard and stay faithful, God always has your back. With me, God had my back, y'all. From then, once they made that decision of, okay, we're going to go with this person for the intern, I was already on the fence of working at my second job after this, and maybe I'll do a video on that. But that job came and contacted me, and they were like, hey, like, we want you to intern at our church. And I was prepared to say no to this church. And I was going to go back for my second year at the church that I worked at originally. And that I was like asking God to give me guidance, give me clarity. And when they were like, hey, we're hiring this person as the intern. Now, they didn't say that my job was off the table, but it was just one of those things where it was just like, yo, there was no lines of communication. And I kind of just took that as, okay, like, well, there's my clarity, God. You're leading me to this next stage of my ministry. And so that kind of left a bad taste, but also I was just like, all right, like, I wanted an answer. I didn't like the answer, but I got it. And again, God gets the victory, because literally the next semester I got a car, like, basically for free. And I wish I still had that recording of that sermon because it was powerful, but maybe I'll preach it again. But like, I got a car for free, essentially, that is still my car today. It's a great car. Shout out to you, Mrs. Williams. Like, I don't know if you watch or subscribe or whatever. Shout out to you. And I started dating Alana. Like, so many things in my life started opening up. I got a car. I started getting paid from my first church. And then that second church came and approached me, and they offered me triple what I was making at my first church. So your boy was like, praise God, because it's not about the money. Shout out to T.I. And God just comes clutch, like I promise you. So he gets the victory, and even though those were all negative things, God gets the victory through all of that. So I do want you guys to understand that, like, even though there's negatives, it's part of your journey, it's part of your story. So hold fast, hold true. God's gonna come clutch in the end, and that's really all I want to talk about on the negative sides. Now, when we talking about positives, this video about to be 40 minutes because the positives are enormous. Yo. So first, I'll talk about the best thing that I learned. And I learned this from my mentor. It was one of those things where, like, after I grew up and understood who he was and what he did, I like am sad that I had these thoughts. So originally I thought my mentor didn't do much. He's just one of those people, he's very quiet and he's not up front in the center. And I like wish he was, because he's so good at it and he's so genuine that I'm like, we need more people like him up front and in center and on the stage. But that's just not who he is. He's a behind the scenes guy. So I felt like when I was like in the beginning, when I first was there, I was like, man, I feel like he doesn't really do much. But after I fully became an intern and understood, I was like, yo, he does so much that it goes unnoticed and you don't see. And he has a servant's heart. So a lot of the things that he does is to allow other people to shine bright. And like, that is just one of those things that is so underrated and undervalued in ministry right now. So he taught me so many things, and we didn't have like a super close relationship, but I was always watching him, and I always was just at the corner of my eye, just seeing what he does. And he just was he grinded more than I did. Like, he just does a lot that just, you don't see what he does. You don't see what he's involved in, and he won't tell you. He'll just sit there and just kind of smile and just let you rock. And like, I want to be like him in that way, and I want to emulate that as much as I possibly can. And hopefully you know that I'm talking about you. You taught me so much. And the greatest thing you taught me was that family is your number one ministry when you're a minister. Family is your number one ministry. And that is so, he has so many qualities, again, that they're just underrated. And like in ministry, you just need those type of qualities more than you need to be able to speak and preach and be able to comfort people. Like, he just knew the weaknesses of a lot of ministers. And that weakness was, we got to take care of our families. You don't know how many families are thrown apart or ripped apart through ministry. And he always just said, like, my family is number one. And you could just tell with his relationship with his wife, with his kids, like, they were just number one. And it wasn't in a way of like, he threw everybody else to the back burner, but they were just a part of everything that he did. They were at the lockout. They were a part of everything. Anytime he was doing anything, they would be there. And that's just such a rare quality to find, and something that I really was like, nah, I gotta make sure that my family's number one. So that made my number one ministry. So that may mean that I have to say no to things. And my church knows now, if I can't do it, or if Alana is on, like, I'm not throwing Alana on the chopping block. I'm sorry. Like, she's my number one ministry. Y'all good and well, but when we get married, that's who I go home with. That's who I go and lay my head with at night. So, and some other things too. That's when the marriage is coming up soon. That's my number one ministry. And when I have kids, that's my number one ministry, because we just sacrifice so much for the church. And that's literally what it talks about in eldership, of if a man can't raise his family, then how is he expected to lead a church? And we just overlooked that. So that was like the number one thing. Like, love you, bro. Like, you taught me so much in that little bit of time. And you honestly, in a way, you didn't give me a lot of guidance. And I think that was actually better for me. You kind of let me roll, let me rock. And that's something that for me, I needed, and I needed to fall and mess up and make good decisions as well. And I appreciate you so much for that. So just thank you for that. Another positive was, even though I felt like the leadership didn't know what to do with me, y'all, them kids and their parents showered me with love, like still to this day, y'all know that we all family. Like whenever I come into town, I actually just came recently last November, and like I just felt the love, and y'all, like them families was everything. The families were involved with everything. These kids, when I tell you these kids were the bomb, are the bomb. Yo, especially tailored for me too. Like they were all like the nerdy band geeks, or like the drama nerds. Like they weren't the popular kids. Well, maybe they was cool in my eyes, but like they were all the kids that loved like High School Musical and Lemonade Mouth and Camp Rock. Like, and that's me to the end. Like I know all them joints. I love Disney Channel movies. Like that was me.
My way, I'm not gonna stop. That's who I am.
So like that side, the drama side, as y'all know, I'm theatrical and all this other stuff, and I'm a character, whatever. Like we just hit it off so well. And they were just such a special group of kids because they really didn't have like a youth minister. Like I said, my mentor was more of an associate minister. He did everything and anything to make sure that the church, kind of where the cracks were at, he filled those cracks. They really they would just get together at like just with each other. Like all of them, like all 18 of them would hang out at one of their friends' house and like do a Bible study around a fire. Like nobody instructed them to do that. They just did that as like church friends. And like, yo, that is so rare to find in a youth group. Like kids that, I remember one time we were doing Bible class a certain way and on Wednesday nights, and they were like, can we just like get together and read the Bible? Like we just don't read enough.
I want a church girl that go to church and read your Bible.
And I'm just like, you guys are losers. Like, who? Like, we had all these games and all these likes and everything. And they're like, can we just like read? I just want to read my Bible a little bit more. And like, I was like, what's good with y'all? But like, I loved it, of course. And it was awesome. And like, they were just so like, just perfectly tailored for my strengths. And I just, oh man, I could go on and on about just how much they meant to me, especially in those moments. Like, every time I would be grinding or do something, they would always be worth it. Like always, they would be there Sunday mornings. Again, I didn't have a car. Plus I'd be late sometimes. So like I'd stroll up and the kids would all be there waiting for me on Bible class on Sunday morning. Or like, yo, there were times they had to come pick me up because I didn't have a ride to church. And like the seniors would come and pick me up and take me to Bible class so that I could teach class. Like, yo, they were just so genuine, so cool. Like, I love all of them to the ends of the earth. Like, in my eyes, they could do no wrong. They not perfect, but in my eyes, y'all was as close as possible to that. And they just rocked with me hard. Like, and the families did too. Like, the families, like, they just... anything I needed, they were down. They were ready. They were here to support. They would do anything that they can to be involved with their kids. They love their kids. And anybody who's in a youth ministry, the biggest blessing in the world is to have great parents. When you have great parents in youth ministry, it is the best experience in the world. So shout out to y'all. Like, as a church, specifically a youth group and families, oh, I love y'all so much. Like, I cannot say it enough. Y'all took care of me so well. And that's like how it works. Like, I felt like the leadership didn't really know what to do with me, but the parents sure did, and the kids sure did. And that's where it's just like you can't focus on the negatives. The negatives are always gonna be there. And I just like, yo, we used to get down. And y'all remember what we used to do? I told you that I made that curriculum for the kids. Every fourth Sunday or the last Sunday of the month, I made a show called The Real. It wasn't a show, it was just me being dumb. I'd put on a suit jacket, like a black suit jacket. I'd run around and act like I was a host, and I'd do just like I did for Game. I'd be like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Real. And I'd run around and we'd have a guest. And one of the guests would be somebody who would talk about the topic that we talked about for the month. So a couple of times we did relationships because they were young, and we were talking about how to find the one. In February, I remember it was Valentine's Day, so we were like, yo, how do you find love? And like the kids would kind of choose the guests. So it would be somebody, two parents that we like, yo, we love y'all relationship, like, can you give us some secrets? And like we would have like a theme song, and it was like a little Yamaha piano that played like and we just be like, welcome to the real where we keep it real. And like it was dumb, but the kids loved it, and it was the best too because we would do like commercial breaks. So like the kids would make up these fake products, and I would be interviewing the host, or I would interview the guest and talk about like the topic, and then in the middle of it, I'd be like, wait, commercial break. And then each week or each month, 3 kids would come up and they'd be like, okay, this is confidence spray. And they'd go and pretend to do like a little infomercial. And like, again, these were the drama kids. So like they loved it. It was just so perfect. And then like it got real, yo. Like we talked about real stuff. We talked about divorce. We talked about forgiveness. Well, I remember one time one of the guests was brought to tears. Like it got serious. And you know my dumb behind, in the middle of this guest crying, I was like, we gonna do a commercial break, y'all. Like it was just dumb.
Bruh.
But it worked, and the kids loved it. Remember how I said I would suppress some of myself because a lot of the church couldn't handle it? I didn't suppress it with the kids. The kids were able to embrace all of me, and they got the full extent of me. They were able to experience all of Randall, and they accepted it, and they loved it, and they wanted to know more of just really about Black culture, and just I was probably the only Black person they ever met. They not a lot of Black people in Ohio, y'all. Like it is what it is. I told y'all they all be at OVU. And so it was just great times, great experiences. It taught me like what youth ministry is in the sense of like what it could be when things are going great. And so like whenever I like think about those great moments, I'm like, I'm so glad my first experience in ministry was this, because it was so positive, so positive. Being able to go back, I went back with my portion of my youth group and Alana, and it was just so cool to see all of them grown up, serving God, being part of the praise team. Like it brought me to tears. Like I just loved it. And it made me feel like I did all those grinding, all them hard hours, like it was worth it in my eyes. And they're going to be okay. They're good. And like, I was just so proud of them. And I just said it over and over again. And they're like, you loser. Like, bro, we grown now. And like, that's something that I love about youth ministry, or just working with kids in general. Kids are loyal, but also like you won't see the fruit of your labor 5, 10, sometimes even never. Like you just won't see it till later on in life. And it's just so rewarding when you do see it, and you're just like, man, God, like it was worth it. Like you held me together, and now look at them. Like I'm so proud of them. And like that's just how like working with kids work. Like sometimes you'll never hear it. I know that certain people like later on in life, they're like, that one person, my one Spanish teacher really meant the world to me. And then that Spanish teacher didn't even know that kid even liked them. Like that's just how ministry like that works. If somebody's preaching good, and the minister at that church, he was a good preacher, I go to or amen. I do talk, and like the kids were just like, why are you talking during church? Because you know them white churches of Christ, we be silent and quiet. So no, come on now. If he said something good, that was good, brother. Like, so it was just cool. The kids were just like, it was just culture shock to them. And I guess we could talk about just the racial differences, and that I think was such a positive for them. To be able to experience Black culture and experience a Black person in a leadership role, like that, I take so much pride in that. I did a paper on that for my master's, talking about Black leadership and how it's so important, because it's not just for representation for Black students and for them to be able to see that it's possible, which is crucial. Y'all be wondering why us as Black kids want to grow up and be athletes, is because that's where a lot of our representation is. If you go and look in other areas, we don't have a lot of representation. That's why for me, substitute teaching, maybe even going full-time teaching, I don't know what is in store for me, but just being able to be in a leadership role as an African American is super important for the other people to see as well, for the white people to see. No, black people can be in leadership, and they do a dang good job at it too.
My name is Terrence. Whoa, what it do? Okay. Biology major from VCU. Okay. I'm also a chemistry major too. Get 'em. Neurology's what I want to pursue. Go ahead. My name is Terrence. Okay. That's my twin. Oh yeah. VCU's also where I take. Oh my God. It's therapy, bio, and medicine. Let's get it. Whew. Black excellence. Come on, John.
My name is John.
John.
And these my friends.
We are.
Strong black man.
Come on.
We know you love that melanin.
Okay.
And they can bring things to your life you never knew were possible, and you can learn things that you didn't even know because of your cultural norms. And I will say from the bottom of my heart, I'm so thankful for those kids because they embraced it and they wanted to know more. And you're like, oh, it's just you. Like, how did they embrace black culture? No, I brought my friends. Like, Justin ain't black, but I brought Justin. He Puerto Rican. I brought Greg. I brought Jordan. Jordan led worship at that church. Like, I remember we went to Six Flags and it was me, Jordan, Greg, and Justin. And we went, it wasn't Six Flags, we went to Cedar Point. And like, yo, the kids were like, what is it? And we was being our loud, crazy selves, but we loved it and they loved us. They embraced us. Anytime somebody needed some food or somewhere to go, the parents would be like, yo, have the boys come over. Like, that was my favorite thing about being there, is because they got to experience black people, black culture. And I'm saying this because they needed that. You need that, especially in that conservative, little bit racist community. You need black people so that you understand. Perspective is so crucial. A lot of times with racism in those areas, it wasn't so much of racism, it was just ignorance because they didn't have the experience. You can tell the people that don't really know what they're talking about when it comes to the politics or whatever, or just other races, because they don't have any of those people around their lives. Like a lot of people will want to say things, and then you look at them and they don't have no black people in their lives. So of course they're gonna say something about Black Lives Matters or something like that. And these brothers and sisters need to be doing this. And it's like, bro, you don't know no black people. You don't have no black people on your staff, at your churches. You don't have any representation. You don't have those relationships. So how could you say those things when you don't have that? And I'm so thankful because the kids had that. I'm so thankful that all this went down before all the George Floyd and Black Lives Matter stuff, because obviously it has taken a political turn to it, which the statement Black Lives Matters, there's nothing political about that. Just that statement. You could go on about the organization and corporation. We ain't gonna talk about that because they messing up over there. But that statement of Black Lives Matters, it means so much more when you have a black life associated with it. Like, you can speak on those terms a little bit differently when you have black people that you can say, no, that person loved me, or I've had interactions with that person. I can call that person up right now. You don't say some of the things you think you would say when you have a black life involved in your life. And that was so crucial to me because I know some crazy stuff has been said and in those moments, and those kids were able to kind of take what was said, but then process it through my life, through Jordan, through Greg, through other minorities, and say, well, I don't really know if that's true, or I don't know if you can clearly say that because these are people that I'm interacting with, and that doesn't follow, that doesn't equate with them, or that doesn't really associate with them. And that is like the best thing I could possibly do for anything with ministry. Even though, like, again, when you go to OVU, like, you can't be upset if you experience racism. It's West Virginia. Like, what did you expect? I really took that as like okay, I'm going to experience this, and I'm going to experience ignorance, and I may even experience having to prove myself. I'll just leave it at that. In certain situations, but I just got to take that to the chin and know that God is going to produce something great out of it. and that there's a reason why I'm experiencing this, and that these are teachable moments and examples that these kids can actually learn from. And that is ultimately the biggest like positive I can ever take away from that experience of those 27, 18, how many kids, they were able to experience culture. They were able to associate with a Black life that matters to them. It truly does. They made me feel like I mattered in those moments. They still make me feel like I matter. And that's what I always say all the time. Forget blue, black, whatever. Make people feel like they matter. And these kids was doing it. Nah, man, like it was great. It was so great. I really, if to be honest, because God proved himself as he always does, he showed up. There really isn't any negatives, if I'm being completely honest, because it was all part of the story. And like I said, in the beginning, it was whack. But again, I felt like leadership didn't know what to do with me, but I felt the love and support from the parents and the teens. So really, that's not really a negative. I just got it from a different angle. And I felt like I wasn't getting, it was hard to look at those brothers getting paid and then not get paid. And when people say you have to prove yourself, yeah, it was hard. But boy, did I prove myself? Yes. And again, the next internship, they took care of me financially. And I remember I used to live with one of the interns, and I was just like, bro, here's rent, bro. I got you. Like I was not worried financially, and it was awesome. And like I said, so really just, I wanted to give a quick video on that. It probably is going to end up being like 30 minutes long. It is a Truth Podcast episode, but I wanted to reward this subscriber for requesting something. Again, if you have anything you want to talk about, you want me to talk about, if you want, maybe this may not be like a Truth Podcast thing. Maybe this might be like a solo thing. I can't think of a name. I'm not making an intro, y'all. These intros is getting intricate. Bruh. I ain't there yet. So if you really like Truth Podcast, comment on this stuff, y'all. Comment on it, and I'll get it done. I promise you. One shout out to that church, yo. I love y'all to death. Everybody involved, leadership, kids, youth group, parents, y'all, nothing but love. Y'all gotta pray for me because I be holding all the other places that I work to those standards. And Alana's like, bro, you gotta let that go. Like, nobody gonna be like them. And I'm like, I know, but I just loved it so much. Really loved everything about that experience. And it was really nothing but positive. Along the way, there was some negatives, but you know, that's just life. We gonna be all right. As Kendrick said, I'm messed up and you messed up. But if God got us, then we gonna be all right. And on that note, this has been another episode of Truth Podcast, where we tell our versions of the truth. If you are enjoying the channel, welcome, new Fettuccine fam. Welcome to the channel. Check the catalog, check all the different playlists. Find something that you like. I know for the algorithm, I really should niche down to one thing, but that's not me. I do a whole bunch of different stuff, and I go how I feel. And sometimes I feel like being serious. Sometimes I feel like being silly over here playing Roblox with my youth group. So just I thank everybody that's been rocking with me. If you like this video, definitely give it a like. And I will see y'all on the next one. So later.